We have Justin here today to talk about IRB and kind of those processes here at Lipscomb. I'm hoping that this will be really helpful to you guys. I think out of all of the topics that we've had, most people, well, I'm being very general here, that I think a lot of people even on our campus don't understand the wins and whats and the how-to of our own institutional IRB. So I'm excited to have Justin here to talk about that with everybody. So Justin, just take it away.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to do this. I really am hoping that this meeting is an opportunity to be more of a question and answer type thing. The Institutional Review Board is a body that's been around for a while, but has been evolving rather quickly over the last 3 or 4 years as the university has grown and evolved. And really, as many are coming to know, it's the role of the IRB to make sure that research subjects that are human, so not animals, but humans, are treated ethically and are treated appropriately and are engaged in research on campus that is safe for them. So things we don't do are like, we're not research methodology consultants. We're not co-researchers on projects, but our focus is to make sure that human subjects are treated ethically and safely. And so what we do is we accept research proposals by those conducting research on campus, and we go through those proposals and do just that, do our best to make sure that human subjects are treated ethically and fairly. And the common questions that we get are, is what I'm doing research? And so we've tried to update the website, which is lipscomb.edu/IRB. We've tried to update that website and give the best information we can on that. We have a manual now that was approved very, very recently that all of you can read. But with that serving as an introduction, I really just want to welcome any and all questions. I don't want to presume to know exactly what you guys are hoping to learn in this talk. So I am all ears, and I will do my best to answer any questions. And finally, before I do that, I need to let you guys all know that as IRB chair, I have zero ability to speak for the university. The Office of the Provost has that privilege. So all I could do is tell you what we do as an IRB and what we understand our role to be as empowered by the Office of the Provost. So I welcome any and all questions. This could be a real short meeting if you guys don't have any questions.
Hey, Justin, this is Misty Parsley from the College of Ed.
Hi.
And would you explain a little bit about the timelines, how long it takes, how quickly we need to get something to you, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we give a very broad recommendation on the website. Whenever a student or faculty researcher, whatever they have their desired data collection start date, we say if you get that to us 90 days before that data collection start date, you have an excellent chance of getting through IRB approval without delaying the start of your project. If you get that initial research proposal to us within 60 days, still a good chance of not having any delay. If somebody gets that to us in 30 or fewer days, we call it a fair chance that data collection will not be delayed. So especially with student research, we really recommend sharing that timeline with students, because a lot of students will submit a proposal and say, I plan on beginning data collection next week. And the proposal's not necessarily in great shape. And we have a lot of questions and concerns as an IRB, and their research data collection timeline is going to be pushed. Whereas if they had gotten that to us 60 or 90 days earlier, they probably would not have been delayed. Great question. I love that one. Let's get that one out of the way. Thank you for that, Misty.
So once you get IRB approval, how often do you have to have that renewed?
Yearly. So if your project is going on for more than a year from the date of your approval, you have to resubmit your proposal. And normally, if the project has not been changed or isn't changed substantially, you check the right box on the first page. It's a copy and paste resubmission of last year's research proposal, and that's something that we just file. The only time that we really look again at that proposal is if we have is if the researcher's making significant changes to what's being done, the questions being asked, things of that nature, and then it kind of goes through another approval process. But normally it's just, hey, I'm still doing this proposal, just want to let you know that this is still going on and we haven't changed much, and here's my updated proposal. Does anybody have, is anybody in the process of writing a proposal right now and have any questions about what that process looks like?
I'm writing, it's Tamara Klingbeil here, and I'm
Hi.
working on my dissertation. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
And so you will
So you
be
want to graduate? Yeah.
I have 2 universities I have to appease. So
Yes. Yes. Sorry about that.
I want to know, what is the earliest I can get my dissertation proposal to you next semester? So
you could submit your research proposal anytime. It's
Okay.
just an email submission. So again, if you have a data collection start date that you want, I mean, the sooner you get that to us, the better.
Okay.
What I will say this, and this really goes for faculty and students, the biggest delay that we see is people submitting research proposals that are not in good shape. And what I mean is they're not answering each part of the question appropriately, or students are submitting proposals that their faculty advisor hasn't read. And we're seeing contradictions in research procedures based on which section we're writing. And it's almost like people aren't like updating, their proposal as their project has evolved. And then it's hard for us to know what we're reviewing. If one part of the proposal says that that we attempt to recruit 100 men and women from Lipscomb undergraduate population, and then another part of the proposal says that we're attempting to recruit 300 men and women from Lipscomb University, from Harding University, and from faculty members who are also students, right? So we don't know what we're then reviewing. And so if proposals are written well, if the questions are answered appropriately, we've tried to make the proposals very transparent, in that one half of the proposal is the part that the researchers fill out, and the other half of the proposal is the criteria by which we IRB members are evaluating that proposal. So we're trying to be transparent, saying, hey, we're looking for items A through F in this section, and we're hoping that researchers go, oh, then let me include items A through F in this section. So that is the biggest delay that we see, is, and primarily it's when students are submitting proposals and they're just not well written and not consistent, and they don't hit all of the aspects of what our form asks researchers to submit.
Okay, thank you.
I'll ask another question real quick.
Yes, please do.
So we have one into y'all right now. It's an expedited review, but we are working on a full review because Andrea and Haley and I work with the IDEAL program, and something we have never done is research with the IDEAL program, and it's really needed in the field. So we're excited about doing some things. We realize it's a full review. My newbie question, because, and congrats, Tamara, I'm so excited that you are working on your dissertation. But I've not done research since my dissertation, which was 13 years ago. So I'm kind of like relearning all this stuff. So my newbie question to you is, I'm assuming y'all will give us feedback if there's something that you suggest or something we need to change. Then is it like another 60 days? Or do you look at feedback a little bit quicker, if you need us to change something?
So if it's a full review, whenever we get full reviews, we have one full review meeting a month. So if something's not, so we have various levels of approval. So we have research approved, which is you're good to go, don't need to check in on anything. And then we have conditional approval, which is, hey, you can begin this study, but you need to show us, these 3 things in order to receive a full review. Both of those are no delay.
Okay.
And usually conditional reviews are maybe you forgot to include your city training certificate, right? So everything else in the study looks great, but as long as you get us your city training certificate, then we'll switch it from conditional to full, and that's no big deal, right? We don't give conditional approvals if the feedback we're giving is a little more substantial, like you didn't include your informed consent, right? So we need to read that. We can't approve a study if we don't know what the excuse me, what the consent form says. So if the other options we have are, we need to request more information before we can render a decision, or research not approved. And what's going to push another 30 days or another month is if we need more information. That's why it's really important to pay attention to that research proposal form.
Yeah.
And look at the criteria by which we are grading those and evaluating those, and make sure that all those elements are improved. If you're talking about working with the IDEAL program, that's a vulnerable population. So you're going to need procedures for obtaining consent for students who may not legally be able to consent for their own part. So those are the things that we're going to be looking for. When people say, I'm going to recruit from a class, we have questions. Well, then what are you going to say, right? So we want to see a script, a recruitment script that people will use. And we want to rule out that anybody's going to be coerced or feel obligated or pressured to be a part of the project, right? So those are the things we look at. We often see projects that have pretty gross methodological flaws. Okay. That's our role, is not research consultants, right? We do not we do not approve or disapprove of studies based solely on research unless a researcher is telling participants, unless researchers are telling participants that they are doing something that we know the methodology does not support. Okay. So a common thing that we have seen in the past has been researchers telling participants, we're testing the effectiveness of this educational method on students' ability to learn whatever concept I was teaching, right? And the research methodology is that of focus group. There is no test being done there, okay? At best, you could say we're conducting a descriptive analysis of student experiences as a part of this educational intervention, but a test would involve a control group and a test group, and one gets exposed to the intervention, the other one does not, and then you're comparing their outcomes in that course, right? So when research participants, potential research participants, are being told something that is not true based on the methodology, then we will give that feedback to researchers.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Justin, there's a question in the chat that is asking specifically about exempt reviews and what exactly that means. So if you could just maybe go over the types of reviews, and then you guys have there's a website where all of this detailed, right? All of the
Yeah.
types of
Yeah.
information.
So there's 3 types of review. There's exempt, there's expedited, and then there's full. And what qualifies as what is confusing. And I'll admit that I consult those documents regularly because it's so confusing. Exempt reviews are called that because technically they are exempt from review of the IRB. Excuse me. Exempt proposals are not exempt from needing to submit a research proposal. So the role of the IRB when we are looking at exempt proposals is to make sure that the study does indeed qualify as an exempt study, okay? It is not uncommon that researchers have mislabeled their study and will say, oh, you've identified this as an exempt, but it's really expedited, or an expedited, but it's really full, or oh, you said this is a full review, but we could actually review it as an expedited proposal. So in the event that somebody has an exempt proposal, you submit that research proposal. Usually within a week or two, you get feedback from your IRB reviewer saying, yep, this is exempt. Here's your letter. There you go. If it's been mislabeled, expedited proposals usually take 2 to 4 weeks to hear back. And then full reviews are at the very earliest the next full review meeting, which is usually the first or second week of each month.
So I put a link to the IRB website in the chat for everybody who wants it, just so nobody misses that. And then I have another, I think will be a relatively simple question. So for those of us who have research projects that are ongoing with human subjects, we have kind of a revolving door of students who work with us on those projects. Is there a procedure in place for updating, like who is working on those proposals? Because sometimes I have students that can be in and out within a semester. So how does that work?
Yeah, so if you are bringing somebody new on to your study, you are supposed to be documenting that and letting the IRB know that. And anybody who's taking part in like data collection or analysis needs to at the very least have completed the city trainings. So what you would do is you would submit an updated proposal and just note that Jane Doe has left and Johnny Doe is taking Jane's place. Here's Johnny's city certificate, and there you're good to go. And I see a question. Will you please share the link to the manual? That is also on the lipscomb.edu/IRB website. It's in the first section. Is this a helpful meeting so far, everybody? I'm seeing some shaking heads. Good.
So just for general information, how is the IRB board made up? Like how many of you are there? What types of specialties are involved?
Yeah, so
general overview.
So our total numbers kind of ebb and flow a little bit. None of us gets paid for this. None of us gets a stipend for this. None of us gets a course reduction for this. So it's our service to the university. I like it because it feels very useful service to the university. So I feel very productive being on the board. We have members really across all the colleges and departments that are conducting human subject research. So if a department or college doesn't conduct human subject research, well, we don't have any members from there. We also have 2 community members. By rule, IRBs have to have members from outside your institution. And in order for us to be able to conduct a full review, we have to have at least 1 community member. So I will admit that one of the benefits of COVID is that I have less concern about being able to meet a quorum, which we have to have at least 50% of members present at meetings and one community member. Now that we are conducting them via Google Meet or Zoom, it's not as much of a bear to get people here and to have community members present. So I think right now we have, was it 12 members? Somewhere around there. I got to count them, but we have them in, out of College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, psychology, specifically education, Bible, pharmacy, where else? Exercise science. I'm probably forgetting some, but those are where we get most of our research submissions.
There's also another question in the chat. Oh. The meeting schedule that's on the website is from last year. So is there updated dates or other guidelines for turning in proposals?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have to update our meeting schedule. It's one of the things that has been put aside since COVID and trying to get courses. That's my fault. We will get that up. It's been on my radar the last week. I just realized about 10 days ago that it was out of date. Part of that has been because we genuinely haven't known when we're going to be able to meet due to all of our crazy schedules from COVID. But normally it's the first Thursday of every month is our IRB meeting. If we can't do it the first Thursday, it's usually the second Thursday. And the rule is that we will review full submissions that have been submitted within 10 days of the last day of the previous month. So if you get your if you get your full review in by the 18th of a given month, you'll meet any month's deadline, including February, for the next month's full IRB meeting. So I apologize for that old meeting schedule. I was hoping somebody wouldn't bring that up this meeting. I knew I hadn't done it yet. I was like, dang it. What else can I do for you guys? I'm eager and willing to answer all these questions because any question I answer here, I feel is like an email I don't have to write later. So I love and welcome. You're not messing with my time here. You're saving me time by asking questions. Oh, Jackie, that was you who called me out of the meeting schedule? Oh, my own department.
Sorry, I just have a grad student who's fixing to turn it in, and I need to know what to tell her.
Man, that stings.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So you've already mentioned some of the things that you see that are potentially the most common errors. So what would be your main tips for people as they're considering submitting their proposal to IRB?
So make sure you are following industry standards of practice when it comes to protecting human subjects. And the biggest one is informed consent, that you are conducting research that in some way has the best interest of the human subjects in mind. It's beneficial to them. That what you're saying you're going to do in your informed consent is something that you're actually doing with them, no more, no less, and that you have really taken the time to consider the pros and cons and the potential risks and benefits of research subjects. So another common mistake we see is a researcher submitting a proposal that says there are no risks for being involved in this study. There's no such thing as no risk anything. if at the very least, human subjects are at the risk of losing time that they would have spent doing something else, right? So the statement to say is, like, let's just say that you have a low risk study that involves surveying human subjects about surveying human subjects anonymously about their movie watching preferences. Okay, so not really. It's a low risk. You know, you'd be tempted to say no risk. Well, the statement to say there is participation in this study is of no greater risk than one would assume taking part in an online course, for example, right, at an institution. Or the risks include potential for feeling like it was wasted time being a part of this study, right? So you're thinking lost time. If you are collecting more sensitive data, usually you're saying the risks involved in this study are no greater than what you would expect visiting a doctor's office, right? Let's just say that you're collecting like health data. So really know your industry standards, your field standards, and then also know the larger human subjects research field standards. Sometimes we have people who are kind of coming from different worlds where they realize that how they've conducted things in their field, it's a lower standard of safety and informed consent than maybe human subjects research or academia, right? Like for example, if somebody's doing business research or church research, and they're used to sending out links to their employees or parishioners asking them to reveal survey information, but they've never had them sign informed consent, right? Well, that may have been standard at your church or your business, but our field says you at least have to provide informed consent, right? So that would be my answer to that question. About kind of where we see people commonly get held up.
I would also argue, since I've done this with students and gone through IRB approval, it's really helpful to have your students who are doing research with you to do the city training first before you have them attempt to work with you on writing any kind of proposal.
Yes, please. That's excellent advice. Man, do you want to be on the IRB? Yes, please have your students go through city training first before trying to write it. And I will say this, it would be an exceptional student who could write an IRB research proposal without help from a faculty advisor. That's a collaborative document almost always when it gets approved. Okay, so I don't think faculty are doing their students a service to let them go through once with a high probability that it will not be approved, and then the second time go through it with them. There's just not a real high probability, especially an undergraduate student, is going to be able to write a research proposal that's going to check all those boxes. As we know, students don't know what they don't know. And hopefully we as faculty know a little bit more about what they don't know and can help fill those gaps. I'm not saying you got to be a part of writing the first draft of the research proposal, but make sure that faculty faculty advisors are a part of that writing process before it's submitted to the IRB.
I've got a question, Justin. This
Sure,
is Kirsten
yes.
Dodson.
Hi, Kirsten.
I'm exempt for the review that I've got, but I've got a question about it. So to add students for me, do I need to submit another, or not another, but an update as well?
Yeah, anytime you're adding people to your study, you just
Okay.
want to document that you've informed IRB and that and that they've like completed the city trainings and things of that nature.
Okay. And then for collaborators on campus, I think that's one of the boxes that you can fill in. If the collaborator on campus has never seen the data or anything like that, would they still need to be included? If maybe I'm only communicating ideas, like general ideas and things like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if collaborators from the IRB's perspective are people who are a part of writing the document that you're publishing, putting together the presentation that you're publishing, people who are managing the data, right?
Okay.
Who have access to the data. So you have to have either a first degree relationship with the data or a second degree, like I'm writing a document based on the data.
Okay.
In order to truly be considered a research collaborator.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Great questions, everybody.
Hi, this is Andrea Pewitt with Ideal. And so I know Misty had asked a couple of questions about Ideal and our research. And then I just have a question about the schedule and kind of going back to Jacqueline's question in here. So the schedule that's on the website is what we've been using and going up of determining our dates. And so that's not right, correct? So we have missed the deadline essentially for the November meeting. Is that correct? If it was the 18th, because the website says the 28th.
Of November for the submission.
For the October 28th for November session.
Yeah, so that's probably because we had a meeting the second week of November. We actually haven't even scheduled our November meeting yet. So I would just say get that in.
Okay.
As soon as you can.
Okay.
And I would say there's a very good chance we'll be able to review it.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Megan Parker Peters, who apparently is in this meeting. I can't. She's not on my little screen here, but she's a member of our IRB, and she also said that very appropriately in the comment section. One of the things that we are also looking at this year is COVID accommodations. All right, if you are dealing with human subjects and the IRB cares about keeping them safe, you need to be outlining how you're keeping your human subjects safe in light of COVID, right? So if you're doing any in-person data collection, we're going to want to see that you're documenting steps according to CDC guidelines to keep people from passing on the virus or acquiring the virus, right? So things like masks and social distancing whenever possible, and doing anything outside that could be done outside is going to reduce that risk. So that's something in 2020 that we have been having to do. And if you have ongoing studies that you made changes due to COVID, submit those updated proposals. Any other questions? Amanda, we have till 1, right?
Yes, we have until 1.
All right.
I'll ask another one.
Mm-hmm.
What specific city courses do undergrads need to take in order to be part of the research process?
Yeah, so when you log on to our city account through Lipscomb, we have created what the city people call learner groups. And there's one called faculty, students, and staff. The other one is called like IRB members, right? Or so 99% of people who take the city training will just complete the faculty, students, and staff one. Unless you're working with patients in pharmacy or marriage and family therapy or counseling, and you're doing research, then there's a different learner group for that. Or if you're an IRB member, there's a different learner group for that. So there should only be 3 learner groups. And I tried to name it very clearly: faculty, staff, and students. So to reduce confusion, because you should have seen the names that City had initially. Learner group Alpha, followed by the giraffe learning group, and you're like, what? Alpha and giraffe, they don't even go together, right? It was very confusing. So we just had them name faculty, staff, and students. And the instructions for taking that city are again on training are on the website, Jackie. Anything else?
Okay, I thought of another question.
All right.
All right. Right now, I have a single informed consent sheet, and I have submitted it to IRB before for the research that I've done in the past. And it basically includes a section there for those who are 18 or younger or ideal students, and that is for parental consent. Should there be two separate forms, or
Doesn't
is it
have to be.
okay to have the one?
So the challenge in trying to fit it all on one form is when your research participants are adults and kids, then you can't have a form written for adults that can appropriately be understood by kids. So we ask forms to be written at the appropriate grade level, and even for adults. Megan, if you're still on the call, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we say ideally we're talking about like a junior high grade level.
Yeah. As for adults, we usually look at 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the top. And we go by the Flesch Kincaid that's through Word.
Yeah. So you could run your spell and grammar check on Microsoft Word, and you'll come up with, there's a Flesch Kincaid grade level. And we've had people submit proposals that are written at like a 24th grade level, and that's not going to cut it. When I got to get my dictionary out to read the informed consent, that's probably not, I'm like, it's too smart for me. So make sure you're writing your informed consents in accessible language for whoever your participants are. Megan, would you say that the number one reason we're kicking proposals back is because of issues with informed consent?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think about mine and the ones even we review as full review. Most often, yeah, it's something with the informed consent.
Mm-hmm. Either the proposal doesn't match the informed consent. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest one. Or it's just an insufficient informed consent. And we have an informed consent template online and in our manual. I do not care if you plagiarize the heck out of that. Copy, paste, and change what's necessary. I want your proposal to get approved, right? That's why we have it there. Please feel welcome to use that as kind of a guideline at the very least. It's way easier to review proposals that are really well put together. So Megan and I have every incentive
yes.
to like once you got to want to make this the easiest process it could possibly, and believe it or not, it's gotten a lot easier over the past few years, a lot more clear than when Megan and I joined at the same time, right, Megan?
We did. Yeah, we were in that cohort that joined together, and yeah, I will say vast improvement over the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, especially.
Yeah. When we joined, there was no training, there was no manual, there was no. We've come a long way. Any other questions, folks? I really am grateful for this opportunity to talk with you guys and appreciate all the work you guys are doing. Research is incredibly important. We need to be able to prove that what we're teaching works and is true. And the only ways I know how to do that is with research. So know that we want to be supportive to you. And I know IRBs, because I've dealt with them on my own research in the past, often don't feel supportive and encouraging. They feel like unnecessary barriers, and I don't want it to be that way.
Just a little plug too, because I know a lot of us work with student scholar symposiums. So even if it's not research that you're looking at, doing on a very large scale, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put your students through that hoop of doing IRB approval and the city training and all of that, even for a small scale project, because those are the ethical standards.
Well,
we need to be teaching them. We need to be teaching them correctly.
Well, and anything being presented at the Student Scholar Symposium, that is research.
Yeah.
It's being presented. So if it involved human subjects and you didn't get IRB approval, technically it's unethical research, according to industry standards, which means if a project's gonna be presented at a Student Scholar Symposium, you really need to be submitting that research proposal probably January, February, because normally Student Scholar Symposium is like April, May, right? Somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I've met with some professors that are like, "Oh, I didn't need IRB proposal. It was just for Student Scholar Symposium."
Yeah. Wrong. Yeah. And not true. That is a presentation. Classroom presentations don't count, but basically if you can put it on a CV, it counts as research.
Just a little plug for next.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great plug because a lot of that goes into course design.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're creating your syllabus and you want to submit to student scholars, that's got to be a start of the semester project. Or, it's a fall course with submission is the end of that course with the hope that it gets accepted for a presentation in the spring.
Right.
I think it's really hard to, and Megan, you let me know if you disagree on this, but it's really hard to get a project started and completed in the course of a term.
Yes. Yeah, when you were even saying that about the Student Scholar Symposium, they need to have their IRB that earlier. I was thinking, ooh, I'm thinking more like November, December.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'll try to be generous. January. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pushing it.
Yeah, I think from a faculty standpoint, because I generally do research with my molecular biology students in the spring, and we don't work with humans specifically, but we, it's enough that we have to. I think the barrier there is definitely not knowing who's going to be in your class until January. Like, you don't know, so it's really difficult. But as a professor, I could very well write the proposal, have it submitted by the end of this semester, and then next semester early on just add people to it who will be working
yes, you could.
on it. And I think that workflow makes more sense than trying to wait for the students to actually write it.
That would be a great way to have a lot more success with that. Yep.
Can I ask a quick question, Justin?
Sure, yes.
So from the basic sciences side, kind of similar to what Amanda's talking about. So none of my work involves human subjects. I do want to make sure my students are trained appropriately. So we have RCR training we put our students through in our summer program and things like that. I guess what I'm wondering is from the perspective of someone who doesn't use human subjects at all, it's just laboratory experiments, on proteins and DNA. What's my role and responsibility in terms of reporting that to you, getting approval, things like that? Is that considered exempted?
If
what does that look like?
they're human proteins and human DNA, it's human subjects research. So
right, it's all recombinantly produced, so it's not coming from people.
Okay, yeah. So if it's not human DNA, if it's not human samples, then you don't submit to us.
Okay.
But if your students are at any point collecting data from humans for research and study, then it would be human subjects research, and they would need to complete the city training, and before publishing or presenting on that data, they need to get approval.
Yeah, and if we had, to your point, if we had patient samples coming in that we were testing for levels or something like that, that would qualify under what you're talking about. Okay.
Yes.
And Amanda, as a follow-up to that, for our students to get access to the city platform, and maybe Justin can answer this too, do we have to do any specific registration for them, or do they already
Nope.
have it by default because of their Lipscomb
Yep.
email? Or okay.
Yeah, so that very initial RCR training that we did, where I shared the city website,
Okay.
I
Awesome.
walked
Yeah, I
through
missed
the
it.
PDF. Okay, there's a PDF that's available that walks everybody through exactly how to log in with specific instructions.
Okay.
We have a Canvas course that Hope has gotten set up that we
Okay,
are
good.
working on putting the touches on that will get everybody added to.
Great.
So at that point, you should be able to download that PDF and just shoot it to your students and say, hey,
Perfect.
go do city, and this is how you get in and what you need to do.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. To your point about the session, do you have somewhere, or have you published a list of these sessions that you're doing in terms of what topics are coming? When I register for them through the platform, it doesn't tell us what the topic is and what's coming. So if you have that and can push that out somewhere, that'd be great.
Okay, we can do that. I had some struggles this semester getting everything set up, so
Sure,
it was a little bit late in coming with a few of these. But for next semester,
I understand that.
I'm
Absolutely.
already working on getting next semester organized, so I should be able to work with Hope to have those links specifically say what the topics are each time.
Awesome.
For just as an FYI for everybody that's here, on November the 9th, Lonnie Cochran is going to be here talking about scholarship and teaching and the intersection of scholarship and teaching. And then on November 30th, that is our student mentoring panel with Joe and Emily Mofield and Jan Harris talking about effective mentoring relationships.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Justin. Thanks for putting this together.
You're welcome. We got a question from Elizabeth. In your experience, have oral historians submitted for IRB approval? Generally, things like biographies and histories aren't considered research, but I can't answer that question directly because I would need to know more about the project. So if we're talking about sitting down with real life living people to collect data from them that's going to be analyzed or published or presented, there's a chance it could be research and not just considered history or biography. But as a broad generalization, biographies are not, and history, that's a separate entity. It's not considered research that needs IRB approval.
Well, I think we're about out of time. We've only got 10 minutes left, and we need to make sure that everybody has a chance to get to their classes if they're teaching it at 1. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming. I think you really helped clarify a lot of things about IRB. So
yeah, hopefully.
A lot of people.
And we're available if you need further consultation.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.